Zawadi's head dropped onto a stranger's shoulder at exactly 11:43 on a Tuesday night. She didn't mean to. One second she was forcing her eyes open, watching the blurred lights of Seoul's subway tunnel flash past the window, and the next second her body just gave up. 14 hours of measuring hotel lobbies and arguing with contractors in broken Korean had finally caught up with her. The shoulder she landed on was warm, solid. It didn't move away. She should have woken up, should have apologized, and sat up straight like a proper adult who knew better than to drool on strangers. But exhaustion pulled her under like a wave, and somewhere in her half-conscious mind, she thought, just 5 more minutes. The man whose shoulder she'd claimed didn't push her off. Kang Sejun had noticed her the moment she stumbled onto the train. Not because she was beautiful, though she was, dark skin glowing under the harsh subway lights, her hair pulled back in a wrap that was coming loose after a long day. He noticed her because she looked like she was about to fall over, clutching a tube of building plans like a lifeline, her eyes fighting to stay open. When her head touched his shoulder, his bodyguard, seated 3 seats away and pretending to read a newspaper, immediately started to rise. Sejun gave the smallest shake of his head. The bodyguard sat back down, confusion clear on his face. Sejun didn't know why he did it. People didn't touch him without permission. People barely looked at him directly. His world was made of careful distance and controlled interactions. But this woman, this stranger who smelled faintly of paint and something floral, had just collapsed onto him like he was anyone. Like he was normal. It was the strangest feeling. He could see her reflection in the window across from them. Her face was peaceful now, the tight stress around her eyes finally relaxed. She made a small sound, something between a sigh and a hum, and settled deeper into his shoulder. Sejun found himself adjusting slightly, just enough so her neck wouldn't hurt. The train rocked through 4 more stops. His stop came and went. He stayed seated. His bodyguard's expression had progressed from confused to deeply concerned. Sejun ignored him. At the 6th stop, he finally stood, carefully, slowly, letting her head come to rest against the window instead. She didn't wake. He stepped off the platform and watched through the window as the train pulled away, carrying her toward the end of the line. His phone was already ringing before he reached the stairs. "Sir, the car is 2 stations back. We can." "Send it to my location," Sejun said, and hung up. He stood on the empty platform for a moment longer than necessary, which was unusual for him. Kang Sejun didn't do things without reason. Every minute of his day served a purpose. Hesitation was weakness. But he stood there anyway, touching his shoulder where her head had been, still warm. Then he turned and walked up the stairs, back into the cold Seoul night, back into his carefully ordered world where he controlled everything and everyone. He didn't think he'd see her again. He was wrong. If you're already hooked and want to see where this goes, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to know what happens when these two meet again. Now back to the story. Zawadi woke up at the last stop with a jolt. Plans scattered across her lap and a concerning wet spot on the window where her face had been pressed. "Oh no," she muttered, wiping her mouth and gathering her things in a panic. The train was empty except for a cleaning crew starting at the other end. She hurried off, trying to remember where she'd gotten on and how she was supposed to get home now. Her phone was nearly dead. Of course it was. It took her 40 minutes and 2 wrong transfers to make it back to her apartment in Itaewon. By the time she stumbled through her door, it was nearly 1 in the morning. She should have been frustrated, should have been annoyed at herself for falling asleep, for missing her stop, for being so careless in a city she barely knew. But instead, she felt oddly rested. And there was this strange warmth in her chest that she couldn't quite explain, like she'd been taken care of somehow. "You're losing it," she told herself, dropping her bags and heading straight for the shower. "Jet lag is making you weird." But it wasn't jet lag. She'd been in Seoul for 3 weeks already. She dreamed that night of a train that never stopped and a presence beside her that felt safe in a way nothing had felt safe in months. When her alarm went off 5 hours later, she groaned and immediately regretted every life choice that had led to this moment. Her phone buzzed with a message from her project manager. "Client meeting today at 10. Mr. Kang wants to see initial concepts. Don't be late." Zawadi sat up, suddenly awake. This was it. The big meeting with the actual owner of Hyewon Grand, the luxury hotel chain she'd been hired to redesign. She'd been in Seoul for weeks and hadn't met him yet, just his assistants and the hotel managers. She had 3 hours to look like a professional who had her life together and definitely didn't fall asleep on strangers in the subway. The Kang Group headquarters was in Gangnam, all glass and steel and intimidatingly perfect landscaping. Zawadi arrived 20 minutes early, her portfolio tucked under her arm, wearing the navy dress that always made her feel competent. The lobby was cold. Not temperature-wise, though the air conditioning was aggressive. It was the atmosphere. Everyone moved with purpose, spoke in low voices, and nobody smiled.
Dlamini?
A woman in a perfect gray suit approached.
I'm Assistant Kim. Please follow me.
They rode the elevator to the 38th floor in silence. Zawadi tried not to fidget. She'd presented to demanding clients before. She'd redesigned heritage sites in Cape Town and boutique hotels in Johannesburg. She knew her work was good. So why did she feel like she was walking into an exam she hadn't studied for? Assistant Kim led her to a conference room that was all clean lines and minimal furniture. A long table, 8 chairs, nothing on the walls. Mr. Kang will be with you shortly. Would you like water? Coffee? Water is fine, thank you. Zawadi was alone for exactly 4 minutes. She spent them setting up her presentation boards and reminding herself that she was Zawadi Dlamini. She was good at her job, and she didn't need to impress anyone beyond showing them excellent work. The door opened. She turned with a professional smile ready. The smile froze. The man walking into the conference room was tall, sharp-featured, and moving with the kind of quiet control that made the spaces feel smaller. Dark hair, dark eyes, expression unreadable. And she knew that face, not from a business magazine or a company website. She knew it because 3 nights ago she'd watched it in the reflection of a subway window while she used his shoulder as a pillow. Oh no, oh no, no, no. Kang Si-jun stopped 2 steps into the room. Their eyes met. She waited for recognition, for acknowledgement, for the awkward, "Hey, you're the subway girl" conversation. It didn't come. His expression didn't change at all. He moved to the head of the table, gestured for her to sit, and said in perfect English, "Mrs. Dlamini, thank you for meeting with me." His voice was different than she'd expected, quieter, but it carried weight. "Of course," she managed, sitting down and trying to remember how to act like a normal person. "Thank you for the opportunity." Did he not recognize her? It had been dark on the train, and she'd been half dead with exhaustion. Maybe he genuinely didn't remember. Maybe she'd been so forgettable that, "I've reviewed your initial proposals," he said, pulling out a tablet. "The lobby concept is interesting, but the color palette concerns me." Just like that, they were talking business. Zawadi's brain struggled to catch up. "The colors are meant to warm the space," she explained, shifting into professional mode because that was safer than whatever else was happening. Hewan Grand caters to international travelers. I want them to feel welcomed, not intimidated. Warm can read as cheap if not executed properly. Her eyebrows went up. "Are you saying you don't trust my execution?" Something flickered across his face. "I'm saying I want to understand your vision. My vision is to create spaces that make people feel human," she said, a little more sharply than intended. "Hotels can be cold, transactional. I design rooms that remember you're not just a credit card with luggage." Silence. He was looking at her like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. "Show me," he said finally. So she did. She walked him through each concept, explaining her choices, defending her decisions when he questioned them, and he questioned everything. The lighting fixtures, the textile choices, the spatial flow. It should have been annoying. It was definitely challenging. But there was something about the way he listened, really listened, that made her want to prove every single point. "The guest rooms feel too intimate," he said, studying her rendering of the deluxe suite. "They're supposed to be intimate. People sleep there. Our guests expect luxury. Luxury doesn't have to mean cold and impersonal. It can mean coming back after a long day and actually wanting to stay in instead of rushing back out." His eyes lifted from the tablet to her face. "You sound like you're speaking from experience." "I am. I've stayed in a lot of hotels that felt like expensive waiting rooms. And what makes a hotel feel like more than a waiting room?" She paused, caught off guard by what felt like a genuine question instead of a challenge. Details that show someone thought about the human using the space. A chair that's actually comfortable to read in, not just nice to look at. Lighting you can adjust because maybe you have a headache. A bathroom where you don't have to guess which minimalist tap is hot and which is cold. The corner of his mouth moved, not quite a smile, but something. "Practical luxury," he said. "Exactly." He nodded slowly, then stood. The meeting was apparently over. "I'd like revised proposals by Friday. Address the lobby palette, but keep your concept. I want to see if you can make it work." It wasn't quite approval, but it wasn't rejection either. Zawadi gathered her materials, trying not to feel dismissed. "I'll have them ready." He walked her to the door, which seemed unnecessary, but she wasn't going to argue. As she stepped into the hallway, she couldn't help herself. "Mr. Kang?" He paused, hand still on the door. "Yes? Have we met before?" She watched his face carefully, waited for the recognition, the acknowledgement. His expression remained perfectly neutral. I don't believe so. I would remember. Then he closed the door, leaving her standing in the hallway feeling like she'd imagined the entire subway encounter. But she hadn't. She knew she hadn't. Which meant Kang Saijun was pretending not to know her. The question was why. Zawadi made it back to her apartment before she let herself freak out. Okay, she said to her empty living room, pacing between the couch and the kitchen counter. Okay, so your new client is the subway guy. That's fine. That's totally fine. It was dark, you were tired, maybe he actually doesn't remember. People have forgettable faces. She caught sight of herself in the mirror hanging by the door. Okay, I don't have a forgettable face. So he's lying. Why is he lying? Her phone rang. Her sister's photo filled the screen, all bright smile and Durban sunshine. Thandi, I can't talk, I'm having a crisis. Hello to you too, her sister laughed. What crisis? Is Seoul not working out? Seoul is fine, Seoul is great. I just had a meeting with my client who I'm 99% sure is the guy I accidentally used as a pillow on the subway, and he's pretending we've never met. Silence. Then I'm going to need you to run that by me again slower. Zawadi collapsed onto her couch and told her sister everything. The subway, the meeting. The way Kang Sejun had looked at her like she was a complete stranger when she knew he remembered. Maybe he's embarrassed, Thandi suggested. Embarrassed about what? I'm the one who fell asleep on him. Maybe he's married. He's not wearing a ring. Maybe he's engaged. Maybe he has a girlfriend. Maybe he's trying to keep things professional because you're working together. That unfortunately made sense. I don't even like him, Zawadi said. He's cold and demanding, and he questioned every single one of my design choices. Uh-huh, Thandi said in her knowing big sister voice. So why do you care if he remembers you or not? I don't. It's weird, that's all. Sure. Hey, I have to go. Mama's calling me for dinner. Try not to fall asleep on any more mysterious men. It was one time, but Thandi had already hung up, her laugh the last thing Zawadi heard. She spent the rest of the evening working on the revised proposals, tweaking the lobby palette until it hit that perfect balance between warm and luxurious. She'd show Kang Sejun that her vision worked. She'd be so professional and competent that the subway thing wouldn't matter at all. This was just a job. He was just a client. She almost believed it. Saijun sat in his office long after the building had emptied, looking at Zawadi's design proposals on his screen. Min Hyuk, his head of security and closest thing he had to a friend, was sprawled in the chair across from him with the ease of someone who'd known him since university. So, Min Hyuk said, the designer is Subway Girl. Don't call her that. What should I call her? The woman you let sleep on you for 6 stops? The woman you missed a meeting for because you were too busy being a human pillow? Saijun gave him a flat look. Min Hyuk grinned. This is the most interesting thing that's happened all year. You like her? I don't know her, but you want to. Saijun didn't answer, which was answer enough. She asked if we'd met before, he said after a moment. And you said no. I said I would remember, which is not technically a lie, very lawyer of you. Min Hyuk leaned forward. Why didn't you just tell her? Because it's irrelevant, or because you wanted to see if she'd bring it up, see if she remembered you? Saijun closed his laptop. She's here to do a job. The last thing she needs is her client admitting he let her sleep on him in the subway. Most women would find that sweet. Most women aren't working for me. Min Hyuk stood, stretching. For what it's worth, her designs are good. The team likes her. And she's the first person I've seen argue with you in years. She wasn't arguing, she was defending her work. She told you luxury doesn't have to be cold and impersonal. In a room where you were being cold and impersonal, if that's not arguing, I don't know what is. After Min Hyuk left, Saijun opened the design files again. He found himself studying not just the work but the details. The way she'd annotated everything in neat handwriting. The little sketches in the margins showing alternative ideas. She put thought into things, real thought. He respected that. His phone buzzed with a message from his sister. Appa, are you still at the office? It's almost midnight. Go home. He smiled slightly and typed back. Soon. But he didn't leave. He stayed there, looking at designs for a hotel lobby, thinking about a woman who believed spaces should make people feel human. It had been a long time since he'd felt human. Friday came faster than Zawadi wanted. She'd worked on the proposals until they were perfect, then worked on them some more because perfect wasn't enough when presenting to someone who noticed everything. This time the meeting was at the hotel site itself, in a temporary office set up in what would eventually become the executive conference room. It smelled like fresh paint and sawdust. Saijun was already there when she arrived, standing near the window and talking on the phone in rapid Korean. He was dressed more casually today, no jacket, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. Zawadi tried very hard not to notice. He ended the call when he saw her. "Mrs. Lamini, show me what you've done." Still no greeting, still all business. Fine, she could do business. She set up quickly and walked him through the revisions. The lobby palette was warmer now, but grounded with darker wood tones and stone textures, rich without being heavy. He studied it in silence for what felt like an hour, but was probably 90 seconds. "Better," he said finally. "This works!" Zawadi felt a ridiculous amount of pride at those 2 words. "The guest rooms," he continued, swiping to the next design. "You've changed the layout. I found a better flow. The original had you walking past the bathroom to reach the bed, which felt awkward. This way the space opens up naturally." He nodded, still looking at the screen. "You think about how people move. Architecture is just organized movement when you break it down." He glanced at her, something that might have been amusement in his eyes. "That's a very practical way to see it. I'm a very practical person. Are you?" The question hung there, weighted with something she couldn't quite read. Before she could answer, the door opened and 3 men walked in. They were dressed well, moved with confidence, and every single one of them looked at Saijun with something that made Zawadi's instincts prickle. It wasn't respect exactly. It was something more careful. "Mr. Kang," the oldest one said with a slight bow. "We didn't know you were here, clearly." Sijun's voice had gone cold in a way that made the temperature in the room actually seem to drop. "I thought I made it clear this site was off limits during business hours. Of course, we were just checking on the structural updates in the basement level. The basement level that doesn't concern you. It wasn't a question." The 3 men left quickly, and Zawadi was struck by how they moved like water around a stone. Like Saijun's was something to flow around, not confront. When the door closed, Saijun turned back to her as if nothing had happened. "Continue." But Zawadi's internal alarm bells were ringing. That interaction wasn't normal. The way those men had looked at him wasn't normal. "Who were they?" she asked. "Associates. They won't bother you again." "They didn't bother me." "Good." He went back to reviewing her designs, but Zawadi couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just witnessed something important. Something that confirmed what she'd started suspecting. Kang Saijun wasn't just a businessman. There was something else going on. She just didn't know what yet. The weekend came and Zawadi decided she needed to stop thinking about Kang Saijun and his weird, mysterious meetings with scared-looking men. She went to Ixyandong with 2 other expat designers she'd met at a networking event, wandered through the Hanok alleyways, ate too much tteokbokki, and almost convinced herself that she was overthinking everything. Almost. On Sunday evening, her phone buzzed with an email from Saijun sent at 11:30 at night. "Does this man sleep?" she muttered, opening it. It was a request for her to be at the hotel site Monday morning at 7 to meet with the structural engineering team. There was a problem with one of the load-bearing walls in the lobby, and they needed her input before proceeding. She wrote back a professional confirmation and tried not to wonder why he was working on a Sunday night. Monday morning was cold and gray, threatening rain. Zawadi showed up at 6:55 with coffee and her tablet, ready to problem solve. The construction crew was already there. So was Saijun, wearing dark pants and a sweater that made him look less like a corporate executive and more like a very attractive graduate student. Zawadi shook that thought away immediately. "The wall here," the chief engineer was saying, pointing to the main lobby space. "We can't remove it completely without additional support columns, but columns will interrupt the open concept design." Zawadi studied the space, walking the perimeter, measuring sight lines with her hands. Saijun watched her but didn't interrupt. "What if we don't remove it?" she said slowly. "What if we make it a feature? A partial wall, stone-clad with integrated lighting. It becomes an art piece instead of a structural compromise." The engineer looked skeptical. "That would change the entire flow you designed. The flow adapts." "Good design is flexible," she turned to Saijun. "Can I sketch this out?" He handed her his tablet without a word. She drew quickly rough lines that showed the concept. A dramatic stone installation that divided the space without closing it off, creating intimate areas within the larger lobby. It was actually better than her original plan. "This works," the engineer said, surprise in his voice. "This is better," Saijun corrected, still looking at her sketch. His eyes met hers. "You think fast. I've had a lot of practice with things not going to plan." Something shifted in his expression. "Yes. I imagine you have." The crew dispersed to start implementing the changes, leaving Zawadi and Saijun standing in the empty lobby space. The silence felt heavy. "You didn't have to come here personally," Zawadi said, packing up her things. "I could have handled this with the engineers. I wanted to see how you work under pressure. And You don't panic. You adapt, he paused. I value that. It was the closest thing to a compliment he'd given her. Zawadi tried not to feel pleased about it. Mr. Kang, can I ask you something? You can ask. Those men from Friday, the ones you sent away, they weren't just business associates, were they? His expression went carefully blank. Why would you think that? Because people don't look at their business associates like they're afraid of being disappeared. Silence, long and stretching. Then you're very observant, you're very evasive. The corner of his mouth lifted, almost a smile. The less you know about some aspects of my business, the simpler your life stays. That's not ominous at all. It's not meant to be ominous. It's meant to be honest. He moved closer, and Zawadi's heart did something stupid in her chest. You're here to design a hotel. That's all you need to focus on. Is that an order? It's advice. I don't take advice well. I've noticed. They were standing too close now. Close enough that she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. Close enough that when his phone rang, they both jumped slightly. He stepped back, answered in Korean, and his entire posture changed. Went rigid. When he hung up, his face was unreadable again. I have to go. Send me the revised lobby concept by tonight. He was gone before she could respond. Moving fast, two men in dark suits appearing from somewhere to follow him. Zawadi stood in the empty lobby and thought about what he'd said. The less you know, the simpler your life stays. She was starting to think her life in Seoul was about to get very complicated. The next 2 weeks fell into a strange rhythm. Zawadi worked on the hotel during the day, often running into Saijun at the site. He'd appear without warning, ask pointed questions about her choices, and occasionally offer input that was actually helpful. They didn't talk about the subway. They didn't talk about anything personal, but there were moments, like when she was up on a ladder checking sight lines and he appeared below, hands in his pockets, watching until she came down. You should have someone spot you when you do that. I've been climbing ladders since I was 12. I think I'm okay. Humor me. After that, whenever she needed to climb anything, one of the crew mysteriously appeared to hold the ladder steady. She knew Sejun had said something, or the afternoon it started pouring and she'd forgotten her umbrella. She found one waiting by the site entrance with a note in precise handwriting. You'll need this. Small things, careful things, things that made her think about him way more than she should. But there were also strange things. Her bank card stopped working one day, completely random. The bank insisted there was a security flag on her account, but couldn't explain why. 2 of her local contractors quit with barely any notice, right in the middle of critical installations. Her visa extension paperwork, which should have been straightforward, suddenly required 3 additional documents and 2 extra appointments. It's like someone is messing with me, she complained to her project manager over terrible coffee in the site office. That's just Korea sometimes, he said, but he looked uncomfortable. Bureaucracy can be intense. Zawadi didn't buy it. This felt targeted, but she had no idea why anyone would target her, so she pushed through, fixed the bank situation, hired new contractors. Dealt with the visa paperwork. She didn't mention any of it to Saijun. This was her problem to solve. On a Thursday evening, 3 weeks into the project, she was the last one at the site again. Everyone else had gone home, but she wanted to see the lobby space in evening light, see how the shadows fell. She heard footsteps and turned, expecting security. It was Saijun. Do you ever actually leave this place? She asked. I could ask you the same thing. I'm checking the light quality. At 8 at night. Golden hour doesn't care about business hours. She gestured to the space. Look at how the stone wall catches the light from that angle. It's perfect. He moved to where she was standing, looking where she pointed. They stood shoulder to shoulder in the dim space. You really love this, he said quietly. Design. It's the only thing I've ever been sure about. The words came out more honest than she intended. Everything else in life is complicated and messy, and people lie and things fall apart. But good design doesn't lie. A space either works or it doesn't. He was quiet for a moment. That's a lonely way to see the world. She looked at him, surprised. Says the man who I've never seen smile. I smile, you smirk. It's different. Show me the difference. Was he teasing her? She couldn't tell. His face was serious, but there was something in his eyes. A smile reaches your eyes, she said. A smirk is just your mouth pretending. Pretending what? That you're less interested than you are. The air between them felt electric. He was looking at her like he was trying to figure out a difficult equation. And what do you think I'm interested in? His voice had gone lower. Zawadi's brain short-circuited. This felt like flirting. Was this flirting with her client in an empty construction site? Before she could answer, both their phones went off at the same time. Saijun checked his first. His expression went dark. You need to leave now. What? There's a gas leak reported 2 blocks from here. They're evacuating the area. He was already moving, hand on her elbow, guiding her toward the exit. My things, leave them. His tone left no room for argument. They made it outside just as emergency vehicles started arriving, sirens loud in the night air. Saijun's car was already waiting, which seemed impossibly fast. His driver was out, opening the door. I'll take you home, Saijun said. I can get a taxi. Zawadi. It was the first time he'd used her first name. Get in the car. She got in the car. The drive to Itaewon was silent except for Saijun giving quiet directions to his driver. Zawadi watched the city lights blur past and tried to calm her racing heart. When they pulled up to her building, Saijun got out with her. You don't have to walk me up, I know. He walked her to her building entrance anyway. Stood there in the glow of the security light, hands in his pockets, looking at her with that intense focus that made her feel like the only person in Seoul. Thank you, she said. For the ride, be careful, Zawadi. Of gas leaks, of everything. He said it seriously, like a warning. Seoul can be complicated for outsiders. I can handle complicated. I'm sure you can. He reached out, almost touched her arm, then stopped himself. Good night. She watched him walk back to the car, watched it pull away into traffic. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she didn't know if it was from the adrenaline of the evacuation or from the way he'd looked at her. Inside her apartment, she checked the news. The gas leak was real, but contained, no danger. Her phone buzzed, a message from Saijun. Make sure your door is locked. She smiled despite herself and wrote back, yes, sir. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, don't call me, sir. What should I call you? The dots appeared and disappeared 3 times before his response came. Saijun is fine. She stared at that message for a long time before responding. Good night, Saijun. Good night, Zawadi. She fell asleep with her phone in her hand and dreamed of standing in an empty lobby filled with perfect light. Okay, I know you're invested now. If you want to see how this complicated situation unfolds, leave a comment telling me what you think Saijun is hiding. I read every single one. Now let's get back to Zawadi's story because things are about to get even more interesting. The next morning, Zawadi woke up to chaos. Her email was full of messages from the contractor, the project manager, and the hotel GM. The permits for the lobby renovation had been suspended pending review. The review could take weeks. Everything was on hold. No, she muttered, calling the project manager immediately. I don't know what happened, he said, and he sounded genuinely panicked. The permits were fine yesterday. Someone filed a complaint about structural safety. The structural engineers signed off on everything. I know. I'm trying to sort it out, but the city office is being difficult. Zawadi spent 2 hours on the phone with various officials, getting transferred and put on hold and told to submit forms she'd already submitted. By the time she hung up, she wanted to throw her phone out the window. This wasn't random bureaucracy. Someone was deliberately messing with her project. She grabbed her jacket and headed straight to Kang Group headquarters. The receptionist tried to stop her. Ms. Dlamini, you need an appointment to see Mr. Kang. Tell him I'm here. He'll see me. I really can't just. Tell him it's about the permits. 5 minutes later, she was in the elevator to the 38th floor, and 5 minutes after that, she was in Saijun's office, which was all clean lines and minimal furniture and a view of Seoul that probably cost more money than she'd make in her entire life. Saijun stood when she entered. Zawadi, what's wrong? The permits are suspended. Someone filed a complaint, and now the entire lobby renovation is on hold, and I can't get a straight answer from anyone about why or how to fix it. His expression went cold. Since when? This morning. I've been on the phone for hours. He picked up his desk phone, pressed one button. Min Hyuk, my office now. Less than a minute later, a man walked in. Tall, sharp-eyed, moving with easy confidence. He looked at Zawadi with open curiosity. This is Min Hyuk, my head of security, Saijun said. Tell him exactly what you told me. So she did. Listed every problem she'd had over the past 2 weeks. The bank card, the contractors, the visa paperwork, now the permits. Min Hyuk's expression grew darker with each item. When she finished, he looked at Saijun and said something in rapid Korean. Saijun's jaw tightened. He responded in Korean, his voice sharp. I'm sorry, Zawadi interrupted. What's happening? Saijun turned to her. How much do you know about Kang Group's business operations? You own luxury hotels. And apparently some other companies based on the website. And that's all you know. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Should I know more? Min Hyuk made a sound that might have been a laugh. Saijun shot him a look that could freeze water. Someone on my team thought you were gathering information on our operations, Saijun said carefully. They took it upon themselves to make your work here difficult, to push you to leave. Zawadi stared. Why would anyone think I'm gathering information? I'm an interior designer. A foreign interior designer who's been asking questions and observing things. Min Hyuk said it gently, almost apologetically. In our line of work, that raises flags. What line of work? You run hotels. Silence. The kind of silence that answered questions you didn't want to ask. Zawadi looked between them. Saijun's careful expression, Min Hyuk's guarded posture, the way they were both watching her like they were waiting for her to put pieces together. "Oh," she said quietly. "You don't just run hotels." Saijun didn't confirm or deny. He just looked at her with those dark eyes and waited. "The men at the construction site, the way people look at you. The phone calls you take that make you leave immediately." Her brain was working fast now, connecting dots. What exactly does Kang Group do? "Many things," Saijun said. "Not all of them are in the official business portfolio. That's incredibly vague." "It's meant to be." Zawadi sat down in one of his expensive chairs because her legs felt unsteady. "So someone on your team thought I was, what, a corporate spy, and decided to ruin my visa and my permits?" "Yes." Min Hyuk looked genuinely sorry. "I take full responsibility. I should have verified before acting." "You should have minded your own business." She was getting angry now, the shock wearing off. "I came here to do a job, a normal job. Design some hotel lobbies and go home, that's it. I don't care about your secret business operations or whatever shady stuff you have going on." "I know that," Saijun said quietly. "Do you?" "Because your security guy apparently didn't." "He does now." Saijun's voice had gone hard. "And every problem he created will be fixed by end of business today. Just like that, just like that. Because you have that much power, yes." At least he was being honest. Zawadi rubbed her temples where a headache was forming. "I want my permits reinstated. I want my visa extension processed properly. And I want whoever quit my team replaced with competent people who will actually show up to work. Done. And I want to finish this project without any more mysterious interference." "You have my word." She stood up. "Your word better mean something." "It does." They looked at each other across his enormous desk. Zawadi should have been scared. Should have been booking a flight back to Durban and getting as far away from whatever this situation was as possible. Instead, she was furious, and underneath the fury was something else. Hurt, maybe, that he hadn't trusted her enough to explain, that he'd let his people make her life difficult while he stood by. "I'll see myself out," she said. "Zawadi, I have work to do." "Assuming I still have a job." "Of course you still have a job." "Good. Then let me do it." She made it all the way to the elevator before her hands started shaking. Made it to the lobby before she had to stop and breathe. A black car pulled up to the curb. The back window rolled down and Saijun looked out at her. "Get in. I'm taking the subway. Please get in the car." "I don't want to get in the car. I want to go home and pretend this morning didn't happen." He opened the door himself, stepped out onto the sidewalk. People were staring. Kang Saijun didn't seem to notice or care. "I'm sorry," he said, and he sounded like he meant it. "I should have protected you better. I should have made it clear to my people that you were off limits. I don't need protection. I need honesty. I know." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so normal and frustrated that it caught her off guard. "I'm not good at honesty. I'm good at control and distance and keeping people at arm's length, but you make that difficult." Her heart did that stupid flutter again. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Say things that sound like something when we both know this is just a professional relationship." "Is that what you want it to be?" The question hung in the air between them. Traffic moved past. Seoul hummed around them, and Zawadi had to decide what she was going to say. "I don't know what I want," she admitted, "but I know I didn't come to Seoul for this. For complicated. I came here to work and heal and figure out my life, and I'm complicating that. Everything about you is complicated." He smiled. A real one this time, small and crooked and reaching his eyes. "You're not exactly simple yourself." Despite everything, she felt herself smile back. "Fair point. Let me take you home. We can talk. Really talk, and you can ask me anything you want." It was a terrible idea. Every instinct said to walk away. But Zawadi had never been good at listening to her instincts when it came to terrible ideas. She got in the car. They didn't go to her apartment. Saijun directed the driver to a quiet cafe in Samcheong-dong, the kind of place with private rooms and expensive tea. Once they were seated, once the tea was poured and they were alone, Zawadi said, "Tell me the truth, all of it." So he did. Not everything. She could tell he was editing, choosing his words carefully. But he told her about his father's business empire, the parts that were legal and the parts that existed in gray areas. He told her about inheriting it all when he was 24, too young and too angry. He told her about the choices he'd made to keep it running, to protect the people who depended on him. I'm not a good man, he said quietly. I've done things I'm not proud of, made deals with people who are worse than me, but I protect what's mine. And what's yours? My family, my people. My business, he looked at her. And lately, a hotel project that's become more important to me than it should be. Because of the hotel or because of the designer? You know the answer to that. Zawadi's tea had gone cold. She wrapped her hands around the cup anyway, needing something to hold on to. I should leave, she said. I should finish the project and get on a plane and forget I ever met you. Yes, you should. But I don't want to. Good. Because I don't want you to either. They looked at each other across the table. Outside, Seoul moved on without them. Inside, everything felt still and suspended. This is a bad idea, Zawadi said. Terrible, Saijun agreed. I'm only here for 6 months. I know, and you're, what, involved in organized crime? That's a very dramatic way to put it, but not inaccurate. He didn't deny it. Zawadi should have been scared, should have been running. Instead, she felt oddly calm, like she'd been waiting for this moment, this truth, since the subway. If we do this, she said slowly, if we try whatever this is, I need rules. Rules? I need you to be honest with me. I don't need to know everything about your business, but I need you to not lie to me. I can do that, and I need you to let me handle my own problems. No more fixing things without asking me first. He hesitated on that one. I'll try. Sejun, I'll try, he repeated. But if you're in actual danger, I'm going to fix it whether you like it or not. It should have been annoying. Instead, it was kind of sweet in a controlling, overprotective way. Fine. But you have to tell me when you fix things. Agreed. Any other rules? Yes, we keep this separate from work. At the hotel site, you're my client. That's it. Professional boundaries, exactly. I can work with that. He poured more tea into both their cups. Do I get to add rules? That seems fair. If you're going to be stubborn and insist on taking the subway at midnight, you text me when you get home. That's not a rule. That's you being overprotective. That's my rule. She rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. Fine, what else? If something feels wrong, if anyone makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. Saijun, I can handle. This is non-negotiable, Zawadi. My world has sharp edges. I need to know if you cut yourself on one. The seriousness in his voice made her pause. Okay, I'll tell you. Good. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Zawadi said, so what now? Now I have Min Hyuk fix every problem he caused, and you finish designing the most beautiful hotel in Seoul. And we see what happens. Just like that, just like that. It sounded too simple. Nothing in Zawadi's life had ever been simple. But looking at Saijun across the table, at the careful hope in his eyes, she thought maybe simple wasn't the worst thing to reach for. Okay, she said. Let's see what happens. His smile was small and genuine, and it did dangerous things to her heart. Outside, Seoul sparkled in the afternoon light, full of possibility and risk in equal measure. Zawadi was starting to think she didn't mind the risk. True to his word, by the end of the day, every problem Min Hyuk had created was gone. The permits were reinstated with an apology from the city office. Her visa extension was approved. 2 excellent contractors appeared at the site the next morning, ready to work. Zawadi tried not to think too hard about how much power it took to make all that happen in 6 hours. The hotel project moved forward. She and Saijun fell into a rhythm that was professional at the site, and something else entirely everywhere else. He started appearing at the cafe near her apartment in the mornings, sitting at a corner table with his coffee and his tablet, not saying anything when she walked in, just a small nod. An invitation to sit if she wanted. She always wanted. They'd talk about everything except the obvious thing humming between them. She told him about growing up in Durban, about her family, about the ex-boyfriend who'd cheated with her business partner and destroyed both her relationship and her firm in one move. That's why you came to Seoul, Saijun said. It wasn't a question. I needed distance, needed to prove I could build something on my own. You're doing that, am I? Or am I just running away? Can it be both? She liked that he didn't try to fix her feelings, just let them exist. He told her about his sister, who was studying art in Paris and called him every week to complain about their mother's matchmaking attempts. About his father, who'd built an empire and died too young, leaving Saijun to hold it all together. Do you ever wish you'd chosen something different? Zawadi asked. Every day. But wishing doesn't change reality. That's depressing, that's honest. They were careful. No touching beyond accidental brushes of hands, no crossing lines. But the air between them felt charged, full of almosts and not yets. At the construction site, they maintained perfect professionalism. He was Mr. Kang, she was Ms. Dlamini. They discussed tile selections and lighting fixtures and argued about the placement of furniture in the restaurant space. The tables are too close together, Saijun said, studying her layout. The tables are intimate. People come to hotel restaurants for atmosphere. People come to hotel restaurants to eat without their neighbors hearing their conversations. Then they should order room service. His mouth twitched. You're very stubborn. You're very controlling. I prefer thorough. I prefer creative freedom. They compromised. The tables stayed close, but she added partial dividers with greenery. It looked beautiful, and Saijun admitted very quietly that she'd been right. Zawadi tried not to gloat. She failed. 3 weeks into their careful whatever this was, Zawadi stayed late at the site reviewing the guest room mock-up. She wanted to see how the space felt at night, with just the bedside lighting. She was alone. The construction crew had left hours ago, or she thought she was alone. The footsteps were quiet, but not quiet enough. Zawadi looked up from her notes to see a man standing in the doorway. Not one of the crew, not building security. Miss Dlamini, he said in accented English. I hoped I'd find you here. Every instinct in her body said danger. I'm sorry, do I know you? No, but I know you. I know you're designing this hotel. I know you've been spending quite a bit of time with Kang Saijun. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. I'm Baek Ji-hoon, a business associate of Mr. Kang's. Zawadi's phone was in her bag, 3 steps away. She tried to calculate if she could reach it. I don't handle Mr. Kang's business meetings. You should contact his office. Oh, this isn't about business. Well, not directly. He moved into the room, not threatening, just casual, but it felt like a threat anyway. I wanted to meet the woman who's caught his attention. It's unusual. Saijun doesn't let people get close. I'm just the interior designer. Are you? He looked around the space. You've done beautiful work. It would be a shame if something happened to it. Her blood went cold. Are you threatening me? I'm making conversation. But since you brought it up, I should mention that associating with Kang Sejun can be dangerous. He has enemies. Those enemies might see you as leverage. I don't know what you think is going on, but I'm not leverage for anything, perhaps not intentionally. But Saijun is protective of what he values. And he seems to value you. Zawadi forced herself to stay calm. I think you should leave. I think you should be careful. Seoul can be unpredictable for foreigners. He pulled out a business card, placed it on the mock-up nightstand. If you ever need assistance that Mr. Kang can't provide, call me. Then he left, footsteps echoing down the empty hallway. Zawadi waited until she couldn't hear him anymore, then grabbed her phone with shaking hands. She had Saijun on speed dial now, which should have felt too fast, but somehow didn't. He answered on the first ring. Zawadi, someone was just here, a man named Baek Ji-hoon. He said he's your business associate, but it felt wrong. Silence. Then where are you? The hotel site. Guest room mock-up on the 12th floor. Stay there. Don't leave. I'm 10 minutes away. See, John, I'm okay. He didn't hurt me. He just 10 minutes. Please. He hung up. Zawadi sat on the mock-up bed and tried to stop her hands from shaking. She looked at the business card Baek had left. Simple, elegant. No company name, just a phone number. She took a photo of it and threw the card in the trash. Saijun arrived in 7 minutes, not 10. She heard him before she saw him, rapid footsteps and Min Hyuk's voice saying something urgent in Korean. Then he was in the doorway, slightly out of breath, eyes scanning her like he was checking for injuries. I'm fine, she said immediately. He crossed the room in 3 strides and did something unexpected. He pulled her into a hug, just held her, one hand on the back of her head, solid and warm and safe. Zawadi let herself have it for 5 seconds, then she pulled back. Who is Baek Ji-hoon and why does he care about me? Saijun's jaw was tight. A rival. Someone who's been trying to move into my territory for months. And he thinks I'm what? A weakness he can exploit? He thinks you're important to me. Am I? He looked at her like the answer was obvious. Yes. Min Hyuk appeared in the doorway, phone in hand. I've got security footage. He came in through the parking garage, bypassed the night guard. Find out how and fix it, Saijun said without looking away from Zawadi. And I want to know everywhere he's been in the last 48 hours. On it. When they were alone again, Saijun said, You're not staying at your apartment tonight. Excuse me, it's not safe. Baek knows who you are. He knows where you work. He probably knows where you live. So what, I'm supposed to hide? You're supposed to let me keep you safe until I handle this. Handle this how? He didn't answer. Zawadi stepped back. No, you don't get to do that. You promised honesty. I'm going to have a conversation with Baek that makes it very clear you're off limits. That's all you need to know. A conversation that involves what? Threats? Violence? Whatever it takes. Sejun, he came to your workplace, Zawadi. He cornered you alone at night. He implied he could hurt you to get to me. His voice was hard. I'm not letting that slide. She understood the protectiveness, even appreciated it. But the coldness in his voice, the casual way he talked about handling threats, it reminded her that his world was different from hers. I don't want you to become someone scary because of me, she said quietly. His expression softened. I've been someone scary for a long time. That's not new. What's new is having someone to be scary for. That shouldn't have been romantic. It really shouldn't have. Where am I staying if not my apartment? I have a property in Hannam. Private, secure. No one knows about it except Min Hyuk, your place. A place I own. I won't be there if that makes you uncomfortable. It should have made her uncomfortable. Instead, she felt oddly disappointed. Okay, but just for tonight. We'll see. He took her to a high-rise in Hannam-dong that required 3 different security clearances to enter. The apartment was on the top floor, all windows and minimal furniture, and a view of the Han River that looked fake. It was so perfect. You won't be here, Zawadi asked, setting her emergency overnight bag down. I have things to take care of. The conversation with Beck. Among other things, she turned to face him. Be careful. I'm always careful. I mean it. Whatever you're going to do, don't do anything that I don't know, gets you arrested or killed. He smiled slightly. I'll try to avoid both. Sejun. He reached out, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His hand lingered on her cheek. I'll be fine. This isn't my first territorial dispute. That doesn't make me feel better. It should. I'm very good at territorial disputes. He left before she could argue further. Min Hyuk appeared to show her how everything in the apartment worked. Then he left too. Zawadi was alone in a penthouse apartment that probably cost more money than she'd see in her lifetime, worrying about a man who was definitely doing something illegal to protect her. Your life is ridiculous, she told herself. She tried to sleep, failed, ended up standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows watching Seoul sparkle below until her phone buzzed at 2 in the morning. Sejun, still awake? Zawadi, can't sleep? Are you okay, Sejun? I'm fine. Baek and I had our conversation, Zawadi, and Sejun, and he won't bother you again. She wanted to ask what that meant. What kind of conversation happened at 2 in the morning that guaranteed someone would back off? But she also knew she didn't really want the details. Zawadi, thank you. Sejun, you don't have to thank me. Zawadi, yes, I do. You didn't have to protect me. Sejun, yes, I did. The simple certainty of it made her chest ache. Zawadi, when will I see you, Sejun? Tomorrow. Get some sleep, Zawadi. You too, Sejun. I'll try. She fell asleep on the couch, phone in hand, and dreamed of conversations in dark rooms and promises that felt like threats. The next morning, Sejun was at the apartment with coffee and pastries from a bakery that Zawadi had mentioned liking 3 weeks ago. The fact that he remembered felt significant. He looked tired. There was a bruise forming on his jaw that he hadn't bothered to cover. You said you'd be careful, Zawadi said, reaching up to touch it without thinking. He caught her hand, held it. The other guy looks worse. That's not reassuring. It's honest. They stood there in his kitchen, her hand in his morning light streaming through the windows. Thank you, she said again, for handling it, for keeping me safe. I meant what I said. You're important to me. Why? Why are you important? We barely know each other. This whole thing is fast and probably stupid, and I'm leaving in a few months anyway. I know all of that. So why? He was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then, because you fell asleep on my shoulder in the subway and looked peaceful, and I haven't seen peace in a long time. And I wanted to be near it, near you, even if it was just for 6 stops. Zawadi's heart did something complicated in her chest. That's the most honest thing you've ever said to me. I'm working on honesty. It's difficult. I noticed. He smiled, a real one, and she couldn't help but smile back. I should get to the site, she said, not moving. The tile installation starts today. I'll drive you. You don't have to. I know.
I want to.
So he drove her, and they talked about normal things like the weather and the bakery pastries and absolutely nothing about what had happened last night. At the site, they were professional again. Mr. Kang and Ms. Dlamini discussing grout colors and installation patterns. But when he thought no one was looking, he'd watch her. And when she thought no one was looking, she'd watch him back. The hotel project was nearly complete. Another 3 weeks and it would be done. Zawadi's 6-month contract was coming to an end. She tried not to think about it, but everyone else seemed to be thinking about it. Her project manager asked if she was planning to extend. The hotel GM mentioned they'd love to have her consult on their other properties. Min Hyuk, in a rare moment of casual conversation, said Seoul suited her, and Sejun said nothing. They'd fallen into a rhythm, coffee in the mornings, late dinners when their schedules aligned, stolen moments at the construction site where they'd argue about design choices and stand too close while pretending they weren't. But they hadn't talked about the future, about what happened when the hotel opened and her contract ended and she was supposed to go back to Durban. Zawadi told herself it was fine. This was always meant to be temporary, a beautiful distraction in a foreign city. She told herself she wasn't falling in love, she was lying. The realization hit her on a random Tuesday watching Si-jun argue with a contractor about the quality of the marble installation. He was being particular and demanding and completely unreasonable. And she thought, I love him. It was inconvenient and complicated and probably a terrible idea, but it was true. She must have made a sound because Si-jun looked over at her, eyebrow raised in question. She shook her head. Nothing. Continue being unreasonable about marble. I'm not being unreasonable, I'm being thorough. Sure you are. After the contractor left, muttering about impossible standards, Si-jun walked over to where she was reviewing installation plans. You're smiling, he observed. Am I? Like something's funny. I just realized something. Are you going to tell me what? Not yet. He studied her face. Should I be worried? Probably. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. They looked at each other, and the air between them felt electric. Si-jun opened his mouth to say something, then his phone rang. It was always ringing. He checked it, frowned. I have to take this. Go. He left, and Zawadi went back to her plans, trying to focus on tile patterns instead of the fact that she'd just admitted to herself that she was in love with a man who lived in a world she didn't understand and would have to leave in 3 weeks. Great life choices, she muttered. Really excellent decision-making. That evening, her sister called. So, Thandi said without preamble. Mama wants to know when you're coming home. Zawadi's stomach dropped. My contract isn't up for 3 more weeks. She knows. She's asking about after. Whether you're coming home or extending. I don't know yet, Zawadi. I really don't know. The project's almost done. I haven't decided what's next. Does this indecision have anything to do with the mysterious client? His name is Si-jun. Oh, we're on a first-name basis now. That's progress. Zawadi filled her sister in on everything. The relationship that wasn't quite a relationship, the territorial dispute with Baek Ji-hoon. The careful boundaries they'd built and the feelings growing despite them. So you love him, Thandi said when she finished. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. I can hear it in your voice. Her sister paused. Does he know? No, are you going to tell him? What's the point? I'm leaving. He has a life here. We both knew this was temporary. Did you, though? Because it sounds like you're both pretending it's temporary while building something permanent. Zawadi didn't have an answer for that. After they hung up, she sat in her apartment and thought about Durban, about her family, her friends, the life she'd left behind. She could go back, start over, build a new firm. Or she could stay in Seoul, extend her contract, see where this thing with Si-jun went. Both options felt equally terrifying. Her phone buzzed. Si-jun asking if she wanted to get dinner. She said yes before she could overthink it. They went to a small restaurant in Bucheon, the kind of place with no English menu and no tourists. Si-jun ordered for both of them in Korean, and the owner treated him like family. You come here a lot, Zawadi observed. It's one of the few places I can be normal. You're never normal. Fair point. The food came. It was delicious. They ate in comfortable silence for a while before Si-jun said, Your contract ends soon. There it was, the conversation they'd been avoiding. 3 weeks. Have you decided what you're doing after? Not yet. Have you decided what you want me to do? He set down his chopsticks. That's not a fair question. Why not? Because what I want isn't necessarily what's best for you. Let me worry about what's best for me. What do you want? He looked at her across the table, expression serious. I want you to stay. I want you to extend your contract, take on more projects, build a life here. I want morning coffee and late dinners and arguments about design choices. I want all of it. Zawadi's heart was racing. But I also want you to be happy and safe. And my world isn't always safe, you've seen that. The thing with Baek is handled. Baek is one threat. There will be others. That's the reality of who I am and what I do. So you're saying I should go. I'm saying you should choose what you want, not what I want. She wanted to be frustrated with him. But he was being honest, which is what she'd asked for. What if I don't know what I want? Then figure it out. You have 3 weeks. It wasn't an ultimatum. It was just truth. They finished dinner. Si-jun drove her home. At her door, he hesitated. Can I ask you something? He said. Always, that first night on the subway. Did you know it was me when you fell asleep? No. I just knew you felt safe. And now? Now I know exactly who you are. And you still feel safe, even when you probably shouldn't. He reached up, cupped her face in his hand. His thumb brushed her cheek. Zawadi, don't, she said quietly. Don't make this harder by being sweet. I'm not sweet. You are with me. He smiled sadly. Only with you. He left without kissing her. It felt like the right choice and the wrong one all at once. The final 2 weeks of the project passed in a blur. The hotel was coming together beautifully. Every space looked exactly how Zawadi had envisioned it. Warm and luxurious and human, she and Saijun maintained their careful distance. Professional at the site, friendly in the mornings, nothing that crossed the line into more. It was killing her. 1 week before the opening, she got a call from a design firm in Cape Town. They'd heard about her work on Hewan Grand, seen the photos she'd posted. They wanted to offer her a partnership. It was everything she'd wanted when she left Durban. Validation, opportunity, a fresh start at home. She should have said yes immediately. She asked for a week to think about it. That same day, Kang Group formally offered her a permanent position as their director of design. Full benefits, competitive salary, oversight of all hotel properties across Asia. It was a dream job, the kind of opportunity most designers would kill for. She asked for a week to think about that too. Saijun cornered her at the site that evening. Min-hyuk said, "You got the offer." "I did. And I'm thinking about it." "What's there to think about?" She turned to face him. "Maybe I got another offer." "From a firm in Cape Town." Something flickered across his face. "I see. Do you? Because you're being very calm about this. What do you want me to say, Zawadi? That I want you to stay?" "I already told you that. That I'll be devastated if you leave?" "I thought that was obvious." His voice was controlled, but she could hear the tension underneath. "But I won't manipulate you into staying. This has to be your choice, and if I choose to go, then I'll drive you to the airport and wish you well and try very hard to be happy for you. You're terrible at this." "At what?" "At fighting for what you want." "I fight for everything I want." "But not you. You're not something to be won or kept. You're a person with your own life and your own dreams." It was exactly the right thing to say, and it made her want to cry. "I hate that you're being reasonable about this," she said. "I hate it too." They stood in the nearly finished lobby surrounded by her work, and everything felt heavy with words they weren't saying. "The opening is in 6 days, Saijun said finally. "After that, the project is done. You can make your decision then. And until then, we finish strong." It wasn't a promise. It wasn't closure. It was just an agreement to keep going a little bit longer. Zawadi could work with that. The hotel opening was perfect. Every detail came together exactly right. The lobby glowed with warm light. The guest rooms felt intimate and luxurious. The restaurant buzzed with energy. Zawadi stood in the corner, watching guests arrive, and felt pride swell in her chest. She'd built this, created something beautiful and functional and real. Saijun found her by the windows. "You should be out there taking credit." "I don't need credit. The work speaks for itself." "It does. It's stunning." "You're stunning." She looked at him. He was in a dark suit, hair perfectly styled, every inch the powerful executive. But he was looking at her like she was the only person in the room. "I'm going to stay," she said. His expression didn't change, but she saw his hand tighten on the glass he was holding. "In Seoul? For now, I negotiated my own terms with your HR department. 6 months here, 6 months flexible. I can go home when I need to, work on other projects. But my base will be Seoul. You don't have to do this for me." "I'm not. I'm doing it for me. Because I love this city, I love the work, and yes, I love you. But mostly I'm staying because I'm not running anymore. I'm choosing what I want instead of running from what hurt me." "You love me." He said it like he was testing the words. "I do." "Is that a problem?" "No." He set down his glass, turned to face her fully. "No, that's not a problem at all, because I love you too. Have loved you since you fell asleep on my shoulder and trusted a stranger to let you rest." Zawadi felt tears prick her eyes. "You're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Being sweet. I thought we established I'm only sweet with you." She laughed, and he smiled, and they stood there in the middle of her triumph in their beginning. "So what now?" she asked. "Now we try, carefully, honestly, and we see what we can build together. No promises about the future? Only one: I promise to show up every day. For as long as you'll have me." It was enough, more than enough. If you've made it this far, you're probably invested in Zawadi and Saijun's story. Before you go, hit that subscribe button because I have more stories like this coming, and you won't want to miss them. Drop a comment telling me what you thought. Did you see the ending coming? Let me know. 6 months later, Zawadi was in Durban, overseeing a boutique hotel project near the beachfront. Her family had been thrilled to have her home for a few months, even if she spent half her time on video calls with her Seoul team. She was reviewing fabric samples on her parents' back porch when her mother came out with tea and that look on her face. "What?" Zawadi asked. "There's someone here to see you. I'm not expecting anyone. I think you'll want to see this person anyway." Zawadi followed her mother through the house to the front door, already knowing somehow who it would be. Saijun stood on her childhood doorstep, slightly out of place in his dark clothes and soul polish, but smiling like he belonged exactly there. What are you doing here? Zawadi asked, heart racing. You said 6 months flexible. I'm being flexible. You can't just show up in Durban without warning. I sent a text 2 hours ago. I was working. I didn't see it, I know. Your mother told me. He had a carry-on bag at his feet. I have 2 weeks before I'm needed back in Seoul. I thought we could spend them here, if that's okay. Zawadi's mother made a noise that sounded suspiciously like a delighted laugh and disappeared back into the house. You flew 14 hours to surprise me. I flew 14 hours because I missed you. The surprise was just timing. She walked down the steps to where he stood. He looked tired from the flight but happy to see her. My family is going to ask you a million questions. I expected that. My sister is going to be insufferable. I can handle insufferable. And my father will probably try to have a serious talk with you about your intentions. Good. I have very clear intentions. Which are? He pulled her close, right there on her parents' front lawn in broad daylight where the neighbors could see. To be with you. Here in Seoul, wherever you need to be, to build a life that works for both of us, to show up like I promised. Zawadi felt herself smile, big and genuine and full of hope. Those are good intentions. I thought so. She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, he was smiling too. Come on, she said, taking his hand. Let me introduce you to my chaos. I like chaos. You like control. I like you more. They walked into the house together, into the noise and warmth of her family, into the uncertain and beautiful future they were building. Seoul had given Zawadi a lot of things, a career, a purpose, a second chance. But most importantly, it had given her Saijun, and he had given her back herself. The rest they'd figure out together. One day, one choice, one moment at a time, and if it started with falling asleep on a stranger's shoulder, well, that was just the universe being dramatic. Zawadi wouldn't have it any other way.